It's big in the news these days. Immigrants, illegal immigrants. Um, mm, I could explain at length. I probably won't, but I could explain at length why it's just never been an issue for me. Probably because I have been a minority. I have been an immigrant, and I've lived large chunks of my life with people who don't look like me and don't sound like me and don't behave like me particularly. And I've found it incredibly enjoyable and etc. And it has a bit to do with the tribe thing the other day. You know, if your tribe doesn't prepare you to enjoy the people who are not members of your tribe, then your tribe has failed miserably. It just becomes a place where you huddle. Since Shakespeare, since Cyrus the Great, since Caesar the Julian, the rich have found hatred of foreigners very useful. Because it's written in the blood that soaks the fields of Agincourt and the rest, the Europeans cotton on to this before the bumpkin conquistador of Boston. Why do the richest countries on the face of the earth ever have a problem with masses at the border except when they need them to pick lettuce? Blame and hate them because they are foreign. Go ahead, honestly. You fear them because of fairy tales and Hollywood. That is okay. It makes sense. It is your version of truth. But do not tell me or yourself that they are criminal in any degree more than you or otherwise deficient. They are different. They are probably as different as their ancestors when your petty, pretty fears put them on reservations and trails of tears, when the least tolerant belief system in world history justified genocides wherever they ran into those not like them. Ow, ow, ow. In North America, you, the illegal immigrant, invented a nation whose greatest achievement is the indoctrination that you are not illegal, that any of the founding is legitimate, that the root is not poisoned. Again, for those who say this happens all the time everywhere, it doesn't. It happened uniquely after 1492. Its convictions were Catholic, and Hitler studied up on this history and the great con job since. I came here to the US at 11 years old after 5 years in Trinidad and 2 years in Iraq of English parents. Pittsburgh, the Midwest, a place I loved quickly and I still love. It has a great spirit for those who feel those things, but everything was immediately about status and money. I was 11. And all this was the late 60s too. The clothes that had to be worn, where they had to be bought, the car your dad had to drive to escape derision, all on my street. It was weird and never took hold of me nor my siblings. It was too late. The first 11 years of being in the other world made me impervious to these grotesque charms. So it has continued. Being Pittsburgh, most of the white population was no deeper than 3 generations. Anyway, some had come from the ghettos of Europe since 1945. So a mere 18 years before I got there. Is that right? 23 years. Forgive me, 22 years before I got there. Wonderfully foreign men and women with great energy and passion for unpersecuted life, and an old dark wisdom that made them loose and conservative and impervious to the racism of the Protestants who assembled the country out of other people's blood and who still cannot cook. I was swept up by them. Their boys played soccer and trumpets and went to Harvard. Their girls played soccer and flutes and went to Radcliffe. I know I moved to Cambridge at 15 and I saw them come through at the deli where I worked in Harvard Square. I think now this was a special generation. Maybe there is ever only one before the advertising industry became fentanyl and the uninspired succumbed. But that was the shock. coming from whatever my first 11 years had been, with a relatively healthy relationship to material, to clothes, and to food, and to toys and bicycles, I suppose, to that point. And then suddenly I was struck with this, I was hit by this unbelievable materialism. And I don't really know what it meant, but it was my first foray into the notion that a person's value, personal value, was material. Now I was just 11, but I was well on the way to personhood. It was a great thing to be 11 and to experience life as it was. My parents were falling apart, but that was part of the gift, really, of experiencing life, of being in life. And I'm only saying this because I'm relating this to the immigrant story, because, as with other things, we are manipulatable because of our fears. And people say to me, well, we have all these terrible media people manipulating us and all the rest of it. And I thought, well, I was 11 and I was not manipulatable. What happened to you? What happened to the rest of the population? What that is the thing to address. A friend sent me something about, some typical contemporary hater of Trump and what he's doing, which is easy to do, easy to hate. And he talked about as if there was some sort of American golden age of freedom and a past of sort of pristine virtue, and that we need to go back to. In other words, Trump is an interloper, is an invasion, and he's not. He's as American as Andrew Jackson. The Nazis studied America's treatment of its minorities and became the Nazis. It wasn't the only thing that they did, but that was a big part of it. We were a model. So it's one of those strange things to turn around and say that, fascism or oppression of a population is something new to America. It's in its very DNA. It is in the DNA, as far as I can tell, of every place that I have lived. And it thrives on gullible, needy populations. So if there is a solution to any of this, it has a lot to do with finding a way, a culture, dare I say it, a belief system that allows us, the young and the older, to find something about life that is dignified, potent, protective, nurturing, up to the tasks of the day, the climate crisis, for instance, and to stop these ridiculous forays into massacre and genocide that have never changed my whole life, and the life of the people who populated the part of Pittsburgh that I lived in. It's not changed, and that is rooted in really sick, toxic belief systems. Just is. There was, I don't know when people become invested with that. I have no idea. I don't know at what age, because it never happened to me. And my upbringing was fairly ordinary. So it strikes me as a decision, and it should really be a commandment. Thou shalt not fear unduly. And if you don't fear unduly, you're not susceptible to fascism.